Welcome, Ram. We are live. You can start sharing the screen. In the meantime, I'll do your introduction.
Thank you, Raj.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. After the fantastic opening keynote from Taekwondo Hill, which was inspiring, and knowing what a woman has to go through all of that and leading IT transformation at Delta, it was really inspiring. So it gives me immense pleasure to welcome Ram Srinivasan. And interesting thing about Ram is a very unique distinction of being the first person in North American geography, and of course the second person in the world at the time to have two unique qualifications: professional Scrum trainer from Scrum.org and certified Scrum trainer from Scrum Alliance. Getting one itself is difficult. Having both, Ram, congratulations, and a lot of hard work would have gone there. It's inspiring. So keep inspiring us. And Ram's mission is to help his clients build great organizations, and he does this by focusing on people, processes, and product development. So Ram started as a developer and later moved on to hold various roles in software architect, project and program manager, and agile coach. And Ram holds a master's degree in engineering from the University of Arizona and currently based out of Boston. Maybe a chilly place now, Ram. So whatever the weather.
Yep, it's cold. Yes.
It's cold. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So that's about Ram. You can reach Ram at ram@innoagility.com. Contact details are there in the speaker thing. So over to you, Ram.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you for the kind introduction. And the person in the photograph, somebody said that it looks like my younger brother, and I probably need to update my professional photograph, maybe. Okay. So I'm here to talk about adaptive leadership. And adaptive leadership is the term coined by Ron Heifetz. And I find this model quite useful when working with my clients, when working with organizational transformation. Okay. So let's actually look at what leadership is. So based on your own experience, maybe you can
Ram,
do
you need to share your screen.
I need to share my screen. Okay.
Yes.
So,
sorry for that.
Okay, share screen 1. Share. Okay. Are we good, Raj?
Yes.
Okay. So, so that's the first slide, and that's the younger brother I was talking about, in case you missed it. And so based on your experience, maybe you can just kind of pull up your chat window, and you can share, what does leadership mean to you? What does leadership mean to you? Maybe a few quick ideas, few quick thoughts here. And based on your own experience, what does the word leadership mean? I'm not going to send you into breakout rooms. We'll just kind of do the exercise together here. What does the word leadership mean? Okay, just put that in the chat window for everybody to see.
So there's a question: what does leadership mean to you? Anyone? Yeah. If you can access the chat, you can type your inputs. Okay, I think
leadership makes teams work towards a goal. Okay. Okay, what else? That is from Snehal. Thank you, Snehal. Okay. Work towards a common objective. Okay, leadership means able to go where others have not gone before, knowing others may follow. Okay, and that is from Chris. Thank you, Chris. Okay, okay. So yes, there are various definitions of leadership, and we will actually look at what leadership is a little bit later. Definition from Ron Heifetz. Okay, but before going there, I want to talk about two different classes of problems. Two different classes of problems. One is actually called as a technical challenge, and just to be clear, this does not mean the technology challenge. So the way Ron Heifetz defines a technical challenge is that the problem is well defined. You really know, you have a clear explanation of what a problem is, and you can look at some good success parameters. You can really say, we do this, we succeed. We don't do this, we don't succeed. And it's more cognitive in nature. Okay, you have to execute things. And if you are familiar with the Kennevan framework from Dave Snowden, problems existing in the clear and complicated domain usually fall in the technical challenge side of things. Okay, people can actually be trained, and you can teach them how to solve a specific problem. It's repeatable. And in comparison to a technical challenge, an adaptive challenge, okay, is very fuzzy. The problem definition itself will be unclear. Okay, it's vague. We don't really know what would be a good starting point and ending point, and we can't really define what success would look like. Okay, and by definition, it'll evoke strong emotions, a fear, anxiety. That's what we actually say by living below the neck. Gut reactions. Okay, and there is quite a bit of denial, debate. There is no one way of solving or approaching or even defining an adaptive challenge. Okay, and what happens in many organizations that I've seen is people try to approach adaptive challenge as a technical challenge. They try to apply what they have learned in solving a certain class of problems to an entirely different class of problems. And that's the bigger challenge here in real life. That's what I've seen. So here are some challenges for you. Okay, when I mean technical, again, it's not technological challenges. Okay, things are well defined. You can actually take help from experts. You can solve them. You can look at Google, or you can take help from ChatGPT and then figure out what are the answers and how you need to move forward with that. Okay, for example, you have a flat tire. You've never fixed a flat tire. Google a YouTube video. They will give you a step-by-step approach, and then you fix a flat tire. Okay, you want to cook a Thanksgiving meal for your family. Take ChatGPT, say the number of people, any allergies and things like that, and now you actually have to the recipes that you actually want to deal with for the Thanksgiving in your family. On contrast, okay, adaptive challenges by its very nature are fuzzy. For example, think about your own organizational transformation. Okay, as much as you had your Agile training, the trainer came there, taught you Scrum, taught you Kanban, and then really moving forward with what you learned. That's actually an adaptive challenge. Okay, you have conflicts in your team. Okay, some people are very senior. They are not sharing knowledge with others. They are creating bottlenecks in the organization. That is an adaptive challenge. Okay, there is no trust in the new teams that you created. It's an adaptive challenge. Okay, you want to change the way your organization works. You want to change your organization culture. Okay, the way how work gets done in your organization, you want to change that. Okay, you can't even define it. It's really very amorphous. Okay, that's an adaptive challenge. Okay, so think about some of these common challenges. Okay, and these are some of the common challenges I have encountered with the teams that I worked with the organizations that I worked with. Okay, one product owner working with multiple Scrum teams on the same product. Is this a technical challenge or an adaptive challenge? Is this a technical challenge or an adaptive challenge? Well, the way we approach this problem tells us our own biases towards seeing it as a technical challenge or an adaptive challenge. There are elements of both technical challenges and adaptive challenges to this. The mechanics of Scrum, the mechanics of scaling, they are the technical challenge. But beyond that, how do multiple teams coordinate and work together in that culture within the constraints of the organization? That's an adaptive challenge. Okay, I've seen this a lot. The product owner should write the user story. Anybody seen this here? Okay, and that is not just about knowing how to write the user story. There's something else there. It's not that the developers don't know how to write the user story, or it's not about the product owner writing the user story. The problem is something else. Okay, that's an adaptive challenge. Teams really transitioning to Scrum. Okay, from manager-led teams to self-managing teams. That is an adaptive challenge. Okay, many times, people ask me, Ram, what is the career path of a Scrum Master? I've been a project manager. Okay, I want to transition to a Scrum Master. What do I do? With project manager, I clearly know my career path. Project manager, senior project manager, program manager, portfolio manager. Now, how does it actually look like for a Scrum Master? and defining your career path as a Scrum Master or as an Agile coach, again, is an adaptive challenge. There are no easy answers to that. Okay, so when you really look at technical challenge or adaptive challenge, okay, you can really look at how you define your problem, the nature of your solution, and the nature of your work. The nature of your work. Okay, meaning where are you focused on? Okay, where is your work? Where is your work? Okay, what is the focus of your work? Okay, with the technical challenge, the problem and solution are very clearly defined, well defined, and you can really expect the expert or the authority to implement a solution. Whereas when the problem becomes more adaptive or complex in nature, the problem itself is ill-defined and requires learning. The problem itself, okay, we want to change the culture of the organization. Okay, what does it actually mean to change the culture of our organization? And so the solution also requires learning. And here, the focus or the locus of work is the people, everybody in the organization. It's not just some expert. It's not just the leaders. It includes everybody in the organization whenever you're really dealing with an adaptive challenge. Okay. So what is an adaptive challenge? How do you really know that something is an adaptive challenge? So here are some pointers for you. You have a reality and you have a goal. So the goal and the reality, they have a gap and it creates a tension. And your skills, knowledge, they are usually not sufficient, okay, to bridge this gap. The gap existing and the skills and knowledge that you usually have is not sufficient to bridge this gap. Okay. The second thing about adaptive challenge is that the people who are having the challenge, they are the problem and they are the solution. Okay. It's not like you can outsource the problem to someone else and they come up with a solution. The people who are bringing the problem, they are the solution. So you got to involve them, bring them together in solving the problem. And as opposed to a technical challenge, an adaptive challenge requires a much longer time frame. Okay, going back, changing the organizational culture. It's not flipping a switch to change your organizational culture. Okay, it's not like we say, okay, we will start today, and then in 2 weeks, we will actually change the organizational culture. In 2 months, we will change the organizational culture. Okay, that's actually ongoing sometimes. Okay, sometimes the end is never there. Okay, so it requires a longer time frame, and also it generates disequilibrium. And that I actually mean by that is discomfort, anxiety, stress. Okay, and that is by the very nature of adaptive problem. And there is learning that needs to happen, okay, to bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. So that gap cannot be bridged with your current skills or repertoire. And the learning needs to happen, and that learning is the adaptive work. And that learning or adaptive work is really challenging and difficult because you are really now outside your comfort zone. You're outside your comfort zone. Okay. And it also needs to evaluate what should we keep? What should we keep and what should we throw away? Okay. If we really have to really change our organizational culture, what are the essential things that we should keep? What are the things that we need to throw away? And when we say throw away, it actually means loss. Okay. What are we going to be losing? And this is intentional. Okay. This loss aversion, our human brain is wired for loss aversion. And this loss aversion itself generates a lot of resistance. Okay? A lot of resistance is generated by this loss aversion. So what kind of losses are we talking about when we talk about moving from where we are to moving to where we want to be, to bridge this gap? Okay, the learning that is required for adaptive work. Okay, loss in terms of identity and status. I am a project manager. Scrum does not define what project managers should do. Okay, so what happens? So there's quite a bit of confusion. Identity and status. I invested a lot of time and money and efforts in becoming a PMP certified project manager. What do I do now? Okay, confusion right there. Familiarity is lost. Okay, A lot of times your expertise, okay, sometimes you actually have to give that up. Okay, maybe you, maybe people in the organization, maybe the stakeholders whom you are working with. Okay, that again generates a lot of tension in the organization, anxiety. What do I really do? Okay, loss of trust, loss of relationships, loss in jobs, sometimes even loss in life. Okay, and when we talk about MLK or Nelson Mandela or Mahatma Gandhi, actually the loss really involves loss in life as well. Okay, and with the many other things happening in the Middle East, you can actually see and relate to that. One of the most peaceful times was in 1999s and 2000 when Bill Clinton was there, and Yitzhak Rabin, who was actually the prime minister of Israel, he actually ended up losing his life. Okay, and its leadership is dangerous. Okay, leadership is dangerous. Okay, so when we are really kind of looking at this, moving from where we are to where we want to be, to bridge this gap, adaptive work is required. And when we're really looking at this adaptive work, it comes with loss. Okay, we have to be really sometimes intentional, sometimes unintentional, and you have to be aware of that. Okay, so a common question that I actually kind of get when I teach Scrum is, what happens to project managers? Okay, and I immediately kind of sense where this question is stemming from. Okay, it's the anxiety that is created. Okay, it's the sense of certainty that is actually lost, knowing that they don't have a place in Scrum. Okay, so what is leadership? And this is how Ron Heifetz defines leadership. It's the art and science. It's an art and it's also a science. Art meaning you got to really add your own personal touch to it. And it's a science meaning it's possible for you to replicate it by learning from others. Okay, it's the art and science of disappointing people. So there is like disappointment right there. Okay, it's an art and science of disappointing people at a rate they can tolerate, at a rate they can bear, so that you can make progress on your adaptive challenge. Okay, going back, we are not talking about a technical challenge here. We are talking about an adaptive challenge. Okay, meaning disappointing people. It's not just having a vision, but be willing to disappoint people. It's not motivating people, but also be willing to disappoint people. And it's risky. Okay, and that's exactly what we are going to see. What are the levers that you have? Okay, why is it risky? And how is this different from having an authority over people? Okay, I want to clarify one bit here, which is the difference between authority and leadership. Okay, a lot of times the word authority is confused with leadership, and they are not the same. Okay, so you're granted a title, you're granted a position, you're the program manager, you're the project manager, you are the Scrum Master, you're the product owner. Okay, that is an authority. Okay, whereas leadership is actually an activity. Okay, anybody can lead. Everybody can lead. Anybody can lead, and you don't have to have a special title, a label, or a designation, okay, to be a leader. Okay, leadership itself is an activity. Okay, and when we talk about authority, okay, usually it's granted. Okay, you have an authorizing environment, and between the various elements in the authorizing environment, you are granted a certain authority. For example, we talk about product owner in Scrum. Okay, the product owner has authority by definition. They have authority on the product backlog. Okay, that's what we mean by authority, and everybody needs to respect that authority. Okay, in contrasting that with Scrum Master, which is an accountability in Scrum, okay, a Scrum Master is a true leader. As much as people actually grant the title, the label, the role, Scrum Master, okay, they got to really learn how to inspire and motivate and influence people, organizations, leaders, product owner, and the team members. Okay, nobody tells the Scrum Master, this is step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3, this is how you need to do. And that is where a lot of personal credibility comes in. Okay, they are looking to actually see how best they can influence the system towards a change. Okay, their reputation, their credibility, their relationships, okay, their idiosyncratic credits, their street credits that come into influencing change. And that is one of the reasons why it's challenging to be a Scrum Master. Okay, more challenging, I would say, in my personal experience, to be a Scrum Master than to be a product owner, because with product owner, you have really well-defined authority. Okay, you really know what to do. With Scrum Master, there are a lot of things, and things are fuzzy, and you are dealing with an adaptive challenge. Okay, that's exactly why it's much more challenging to be a Scrum Master, okay, than to be a product owner, in my personal experience. Okay, so what do people want from authority? There are three things, and this is what I call as POD. Okay, they need protection. Okay, meaning if I do what you tell me to do, is my job secure? Okay, and will you protect me from things that are disruptive to my job, to my organization, okay, to my paycheck? Okay, direction. Okay, where are we heading? Where are we going? How do we need to go? Are we having the right vision, mission, strategy? Okay, and then order, meaning how are we supposed to do things? Okay, what happens if there is a conflict? In a manager-led team, the protection, direction, and order, all these three things come from the manager. But when you're really moving to a self-organizing Scrum team, to give you an example, okay, the Scrum team is protected, yes, to an extent by the Scrum Master and the leadership team. Order is a lot more challenging. People have to find their own place, especially when the Scrum team is self-managing. And the direction comes from the product owner. Okay, when you don't really have the authority or the person or the who's who of the leadership team providing clear protection or direction or authority, this shows up in organizations. You can actually see side conversations happening, okay, rebellions happening, water cooler talk about other people. People are actually kind of looking at what's happening and they're not really opening up. There is an elephant in the room. People are not really speaking up. Okay, so there's some silent rebellion going on, and people are really trying to please others to gain advantage. Okay, they figure out who is the real decision maker. And you can see this when you actually don't have a good product owner. When a product owner is not exercising their authority, they are bypassing the product owners. Okay, so these are some of the things that you can see in organizations when people are not having the right kind of authority, when protection, direction, and order is not given to them. And this exists in small as well as larger organizations. Okay, so when going back to what we have learned, we have a technical challenge and we have adaptive challenges. And the nature of direction, protection, and order is different for technical challenges and adaptive challenges. Okay, again, just to go back, challenges don't come with label as technical challenge and adaptive challenge. Sometimes they are actually blended to different degree. Okay, and you got to be able to provide direction, protection, and order for the different elements that you encounter in a challenge. If it's a technical element, then probably you want to really have a clear solution, a vision, and you have to actually know what to do. Whereas if it's an adaptive challenge, okay, that's something different that you do. Okay, you actually don't let the heat go away. You actually try to get the heat in a productive zone of disequilibrium, which we'll talk about later. Okay, you are not really looking for artificial harmony. Okay, you are disclosing the challenges that are there for the team, for the organization. Okay, and you are really working with everybody in framing the direction. Okay, it's not just the leadership telling you what to do. You are involving others also in framing the question, framing the product vision for that example, for that matter of fact. Okay, okay. So here is a quick small example here Just want to kind of see if there are answers. Okay. So think about rolling Scrum in an organization, rolling out Scrum in your organization. Okay. And let's actually focus on this box. Okay. What might be some of the technical challenges associated with it? And again, I'm not meaning technological challenges. What might be some of the technical challenges associated with it? And how might direction, protection, and order play into a situation like this? Anybody think of any examples? Any ideas? One or two examples? Yes, can type in the chat window. We're actually looking at this quadrant right here.
You can use Q&A, right? Like earlier, Snehal and Srinivasan. You can use Q&A to provide your inputs.
Yes, you can use Q&A or chat to provide your inputs. Right here. What might be some other technical challenges when you're rolling out Scrum in a mid-sized organization? For example, setting up the training. That's a technical challenge. Okay, we don't know Scrum. Okay, what level of implementation is required? Okay, yeah, that's what Snehal is sharing. Yeah, what level of implementation is required? Who is going to be implementing it? Okay, who's going to be the Scrum Master product owner? Okay, the adaptive challenge. Okay, fast changing business priorities. Oh yeah, that's actually the adaptive side of things. Okay, things are changing fast. How do we manage things? How do we manage it? Okay, so yes, so once you really understand the technical side of things and adaptive side of the challenges, look for what are people looking for in terms of protection, direction, and order. Okay, what are people looking for in protection, direction, and order? And really see if you can identify the technical elements in that challenge and then adaptive elements in the challenge. Multiple roles held by a single person. Okay, dissolving functional line of work. Okay, you had a BA group, and then you have a Java development, and then separate mobile development and separate UX development department. You know, they had functional managers there. You had a separate QA group. Okay, you had a separate PMO, and now you're forming cross-functional teams by dissolving these different functional silos. That's an adaptive challenge. You know, there is a lot of status right there. Okay, uncertainty right there. How is this new group going to work? Okay, so those are adaptive elements, and that is where leadership needs to step in. Okay, we need leadership there, not authority, but we need leadership. Okay, so I'll just kind of put in another example as well, but you can actually do this as part of your post-workshop, post-session brainstorming to kind of think about that. Okay, let's actually go to the next one. Okay, so organizations have multiple factions. And what I mean by a faction is a set of people, a group of people. Again, this is not the department or this is not a team. Okay, that is not what we mean by a faction in the context here. Okay, a group of people who have some similar interest. They have similar losses. Okay, they may be related to a single department or to multiple departments, and they have a set of loyalties. Okay, and that's what we really mean by a faction. Okay, they are related through values, loyalties, relationships, losses, or anything else. Okay, and that is a faction. And what happens in organization is when you are working with the organization, each of these factions, let me get my laser pointer. Each of these factions, they have their own expectations. They have their own expectations of what should be done from the leader or the person with authority for protection, direction, and order. A different group has different expectations. Okay, what should be done with respect to direction, protection, order, and you are working inside an authorizing environment. Okay, for example, people above you, the leadership team above you, they have different sets of expectation. The teams that are working, who are reporting to you, maybe they have a different set of expectations. Your customers have a different set of expectations. Your customers have a different set of expectation. Your client has a different set of expectation. Okay, so these are different factions that are existing in the organization. And what you really need to do is understand the politics right there. Okay, the politics right there is coming because of these different factions that are having different loyalties, different values, different shared beliefs and assumptions. Okay, and so what exactly is leadership then? Leadership is the ability to mobilize people in the organization to do adaptive work. Leadership it's an activity. Okay, we had your initial definitions of leadership, and this is how Ron Heifetz defines leadership. Okay, it's an activity, it's not a position, role, or a title. Okay, and you're really mobilizing people, different stakeholder groups who have different interests, different loyalties, different values, okay, different expectations from you. Okay, and you're mobilizing all of them to do adaptive work. And that is why, going back, the other definition is helpful, because you are going to be disappointing these people, okay, because their interests are different, okay, their needs are different, they are different stakeholder groups, and there is always this tension between the groups. And so you are going to be disappointing people. And so you have to really learn how to disappoint people. Again, it's an art and it's a science. You got to learn how to disappoint people to the extent they can tolerate. And if they can't really tolerate, the system actually kicks you out. Okay, and that is where you need to know how to modulate the heat in the group or in the setting. Okay, and this probably is a lot more familiar to you when I share some of the leaders that you already know, like Mahatma Gandhi or Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela. And they were doing adaptive work. They were doing adaptive work, different groups, okay, different needs, different perspectives. Okay, nobody gave them the title and said, okay, Mr. MLK, you are actually going to fight for civil rights, and we are appointing you as the leader. Okay, nobody said to Mahatma Gandhi, okay, you are going to be the father of the nation, so you take on the mantle of fighting the British and liberating India from the British. Okay, so he took it. It's an activity. He mobilized people with his work. Okay, so that is where leadership comes in. It's an activity. Now, going back, so you got to mobilize people. You have this adaptive work that needs to be done. This is where you are, and this is where you need to be. There's this adaptive work that needs to be done. People avoid work. No surprise. People avoid work because it's uncomfortable. Okay, it's outside their comfort zone. And so what are some of the common work avoidance strategies? You probably have seen this in your organizations. Excuse me. Okay, scapegoating is something that I very commonly see. Okay, blame someone else. Okay, find who is the scapegoat. Okay, and that's like playing whack-a-mole. Okay, you hit the one mole and then the other mole pops up somewhere, and then you hit it, the whack-a-mole pops up somewhere else. Okay, and that happens in organizations. Okay, why? It's a work avoidance strategy. Okay, blaming the others. Okay, the enemy is out there. Okay, or hey, we didn't really do it. It's the other team that actually did it. Okay, deny responsibility. Well, we are not able to get to a releasable increment every sprint. Well, because blah, blah, blah. The policies are like this. The procedure is like this. Okay. What is it that can you actually do to actually overcome this barrier? People don't think about that. Okay. Seeking quick fixes is another common thing that I've seen. Okay, we have this problem. How can we really solve this problem right now? Then forget about it later. Okay. In real work, when work is seeing when seeing this from a technical perspective, you will see a lot of technical debt getting added to the product. Okay, this also happens in different forms in different organizations when the organization is not technical in nature. My experience is mostly with technical organizations, IT-based organizations, software-based organizations, R&D or engineering-based organizations, and I see this quite a bit. Okay, work avoidance. Okay, another strategy is to distract people. Okay, how does distraction happen? fake remedies. Okay, meaning, okay, we will actually kind of make some small adjustments here. We will make it work right now. Okay, bring in an external consultant. Well, things don't work, you fire the external consultant. Okay, so that's actually really a well-defined pattern that I have seen. Okay, a lot of times you have this the small faction here, another faction here, they are competing, and there is a proxy war going on. Okay, they don't talk to each other, or they are being really too nice to each other because they want to avoid conflict. Conflict avoidance is also another way that this kind of shows up. Okay, or sterile conflicts. Okay, so going back, what you really need to do as a leader is to understand whether your problem is technical challenge or an adaptive challenge. Excuse me. Reconstitute its elements and maintain the heat in your environment to be in the productive zone of disequilibrium. If the heat is too low, people are avoiding work. The heat is too low, people are avoiding work. Okay, if the heat is too high, okay, you're really putting yourself in danger, your job in danger. Okay, and people are also starting to avoid work at that point in time. And so this is where leadership comes in, to identify what is the threshold of learning for your organization. Okay, and what is the limit of tolerance? Okay, what is the threshold of learning? What is the limit of tolerance? And to modulate the heat in your organization to be in the productive zone of disequilibrium. And this is not standard, folks. I'll tell you that it will vary from organization to organization. It will even vary from one department to another, and it will also vary over a period of time. As much as I've actually shown you that it's actually all linear, this will change. This will change. It's different for a startup. It's different for a very mature organization. Okay, it's different for a financial organization compared to an e-commerce organization. And this is where you as a leader step in to identify what is the productive zone of disequilibrium and to keep the heat as long as possible so that you can work on the adaptive challenge. Okay. Okay, so how do you do this? Okay, we've been talking about this. How do you do this? Okay, get on the balcony. Okay, well, actually, let's move to the next slide. How do you really do this? Get on the balcony. Okay, so you can be in the dance floor, you can be in the balcony. When you're in the dance floor, you get a different view of the dance floor. But when you're in the balcony, you get a different view of the dance floor. So you should be able to move between the dance floor and the balcony. Okay, fluidly as a leader. Okay, see the big picture. Okay, not just think only from one perspective. Look at multiple perspectives. Read the cues that you actually get from other people within the organization. What are they talking about? What is the water cooler talk? Okay, what's happening outside the organization? Talk about your organization. When people go out for drinks, what do they talk about? Okay, and you got to be politically savvy. And what I mean by that is not play politics, but understand what you are dealing with. You're dealing with different factions and different needs. Understand which group is actually having a very strong influence on a situation like this. Understand what are the respective losses. Understand what is your loss. Understand what is their loss. Okay, and accept casualties. It happens. You got to do this. Meaning, if you're really not willing to accept casualties, then it's going to be a lot more challenging. Okay. You orchestrate the conflict, meaning you create the right holding environment. Okay. You give the work back, meaning you don't do the work, you don't carry the water, you have them carry the water. Okay. And you hold steady, meaning yes, things will change. You got to really take some heat and you got to bring the issue at the right point. Okay. If it's very unripe, then probably it's not going to help. If it's too early, people are not going to realize that it's an issue. If it's too late, and you miss the opportunity, you miss the boat. Okay, so ensure that issue is ripe enough for you to bring it. Okay, and this is dangerous. This is dangerous. This is not easy. It is dangerous. Okay, there's a lot of uncertainty associated with it. Okay, you face danger. Okay, it's not all roses over there. Okay, you might step inadvertently beyond the authority granted by the faction, by the group, by the organization, okay, by the teams, by the leadership, okay, by leaders in your organization. Okay, you might be marginalized, neglected. Okay, you are passed on for promotion. Someone else is getting the promotion. What do? Okay, will you hold steady or will you give up? Okay, you will be prone to attack. They will attack you. Are you ready to face that? Okay, and the most important thing is also staying alive. Meaning, if you're not there, if you are not going to be there, the change is not going to happen. Okay, do you really have that kind of sense of purpose with you? Do you have that sense of purpose with you? Okay, so here's a quick recap for you. We talked about what technical challenges and adaptive challenges are. We talked about the difference between a technical challenge and an adaptive challenge. And we talked about the gap, the adaptive work that needs to be done between where we are now and where we are in the future, or where we want to be. That's adaptive work that involves learning and involves loss. And leadership is an activity. It's mobilizing people to do adaptive work. Okay, and be aware of work avoidance strategies, distractions. Okay, especially in many organizations, and you as a leader, as a Scrum Master, okay, you modulate the heat. If it's too hot, bring it down. If it's too cold, increase the heat. Sometimes you have to orchestrate the conflict. Sometimes you got to really reduce the level of conflict. You have to be in the productive zone of disequilibrium, and it is dangerous. Okay, Ken Schwaber used to say a dead Scrum Master is a useless Scrum Master. Same thing applies here. Okay, stay alive. A dead leader is a useless leader. Okay, so with that, I'll kind of stop here. I want to kind of check with you. What are some of your major learnings? And how will you apply this going back to your organization? If you can put that in the Q&A window, that'll be really great. Just see what are your major learnings? What are your major takeaways? How do you apply this in your organization? What are your major learnings? Major takeaways? How will you apply this in your organization?
Just to chime in, Ram, the dead leader thing is really wonderful, right? So it's all like, like what they do. Unfortunately, you gave that six what I say, priorities for them, right? 6 parts or 5 parts for them, isn't it? So
which one? Staying alive?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
yes. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
correct.
It's a real tension coming there. Yes. Okay.
Balancing the heat.
Balancing the heat. You're building relationships, ensuring that you are really kind of understanding the different factions involved, their needs. Okay. And how are you really kind of trying to manage the different
Probably
factions?
leaders will say, I get heat from the top, I get heat from the bottom as well.
And that's the reality. Disappointing people to the extent they can tolerate to solve an adaptive challenge. Mobilize people. You're mobilizing people, you're motivating people in a way, but you're also going to be disappointing them. So it's a polarity right there. Okay. Okay.
That was also interesting. Learn to disappoint people, right? That's interesting.
Yes.
So
yes. Okay. So you can download this presentation right here. I create a QR code. Just kind of scan that. You'll be able to download this presentation. And here are the references for you. So the 3 primary books. There are a lot of other references as well. Okay. Practices of Adaptive Leadership is the 3rd book. And you can see a lot of pragmatic things that you can apply when it comes to approaching leadership. And Leadership on the Line is a little bit more easier to read than Leadership Without Easy Answers, which was actually the 1st book. Okay, so these are your references. And thank you very much, folks. I appreciate you extending this opportunity to me. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, and that's my contact information. You can scan the QR code, and that's it. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Anyone, any questions or anything that you have for Ram, or your own reflections as well?
Your reflections or your questions. Balance the heat. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Kalyan.
For us, like for a group of people here, Ram, so we were resonating with what you were telling, right? So that was really very good. It was feeling like we were in that situation, what you were describing, and looking at some of our leaders, what is their responses, how are they balancing the heat and navigating the politics, right? Like what Stephanie is telling. So it was really interesting. So
Thank you. Glad you
thank
found
you
it
for your
useful.
time, despite your busy schedule, and thank you very much.
You're welcome. I believe somebody raised their hand, not sure. Or was it Stephanie, I believe? The techniques for navigating politics is really helpful. And Stephanie, I would recommend that you actually grab the books as well. You can actually find a lot more techniques there. I just barely scratched the surface of adaptive leadership. Okay. Any other questions? Any other comments? Happy to answer them. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sneha. Okay. Awareness is important. Sometimes we focus on the self. Thanks for the amazing session. Okay. Thank you, Pranav. Okay.
So, thank you everyone for taking time. So Ram has given 4 minutes back to our time bank. So enjoy it. We'll start the next session with Jeff Davis. It's at 10:05 Eastern. So chill, enjoy, and don't forget to come back. Thank you, Ram, once again. Recording would be available automatically, and I'll share it with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raj. Have a good day. Thank you all for